Welcome back, everyone, to the Growers Not Showers podcast. It's me, it's Camille. Matty's on his way, but more importantly, we are here joined by. I can talk. I can think fluidly. We're joined by Mr. Drew P. Wiener, also known as Ethan Harris, also known as head or co-coach. What term would you prefer of Enhanced by Harris? Head coach.
Head coach, the big dog.
Head coach, CEO of Enhanced by Harris, mate. First of all, thank you for coming on. It's an honour for you for anyone who knows, back in the day, Ethan came on Catabolic Window with me and Luke. So the fact that we've got him here again means that either something's going right with podcasting or Ethan is a bit of a masochist. So anyway, let's jump into things. Camille's chomping away, so I'll let him crack on and finish up and let his blood glucose settle back down, so he's not too annoyed at me. Ethan, mate, how's your week been? How's your kind of life been as of recent? And then we'll start to move further into your past. But how are things at the minute?
Yeah, man, it's been good. This week as a whole, it's definitely been different. I don't know about you guys and your clients, but everyone's getting ill at the minute, like suspiciously ill. And I've been saying to clients, there's something in the air, and I'm not keen on it. Like there's just people getting ill, and like it's clients that don't get ill, and they've not been ill. Like I've coached them for 3-4 years, and I'm like, what do you mean you're ill? And they're still ill now. So I keep getting that, and I have since probably like November, December time. It's just like on and off. But training's been good. Can't complain. Yeah, man. Things are pretty good, to be fair.
Mate, it's funny that you mentioned the illness. It's always like you can see it kind of radiate across the country. You know what I mean? You see it go like north to south or south to north. And you're Fuck. You guys in the Midlands are next, regardless.
We had it early on. So we everyone in Glasgow was getting ill like January time.
Well, it's come from Scotland. Scottish flu, mate.
Yeah.
Scottish flu, yeah.
Yeah, jeez, I'm going to turn your mic up, Camille, just a touch, because I think you're a little quiet. In fact, I can't, so I'm going to turn our mics down to match you. So, Ethan, mate, as you kind of alluded to there, because the fact that you casually dropped that you've been coaching people for 3 or 4 years, you've been coaching a lot longer than that. You've been around for a while, which is a good thing. It's not me calling you old. Talk us through. We'll go for the classic questions. I'll try not to keep it too basic and podcasty and boring and ask the questions that everyone asks, but it's good to kind of cover ground. So what kind of got you into coaching? What got you into bodybuilding? What was that initial kind of timeline for you?
So I've been in the game since 2017. So I'm 20. How old am I? Jesus Christ, I'm 25. So I was basically as young as I could have been from what I would consider of in terms of when you can get a job and that kind of stuff. So I was a personal trainer from 2017. That kind of stemmed originally from like rugby, playing rugby, some kind of passion in sport. I always knew from young I wanted to do some kind of education. Like, and I've always stayed on the side of like education and teaching more than anything. Even in school, like I wasn't physically good. They were like, if you take PE and you do GCSE PE, you're going to excel in terms of the theory, but like good luck getting like passing in terms of like everything else, which has always kind of been the case. And then from there, I kind of just fell into sports coaching in college, which was just a breeze, but also like a piss up at the same time. It was all the lads. We just had fun. We just turned up and did what we wanted. And then the opportunity, the year I finished college was the year that my uni in my hometown opened up. So it's called UCW, so it's Western-super-Mare essentially. It was like $3,000 cheaper than normal uni for a year, and it was literally on my doorstep, so I didn't have to pay for accommodation or anything like that. So I was like, sound, we'll just kind of, I'll go there. It's a bit of a piss up. It was 2 days a week. Did 2 years there. Then basically the thing that kind of pushed me fully into coaching was my last module in that degree was entrepreneurship. And I did coaching for my entrepreneurship. So I was like, this is it. This is how I'm going to make profit, blah, 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 blah. This is my margins. And they basically said, we don't think you should do that. We think you should come in for your 3rd year. And I was like, sound. So I didn't do that, basically. I obviously quit. I went full on with coaching. COVID also hit. It was 2020. And then a year after, when they were doing the intake for the next like group of people, they sent out an email, like it was a typical like, how are you doing? Just looking for success stories, basically. And like, I'm no big success. I wasn't making tons and tons of money, but they shortly replied asking me to go in and speak for them. And they were like, oh, we love how well you're doing. Like, can you come back and talk for the class and like big up the uni? And I was like, no, because you told me not to do it. Literally from there.
Yeah, you should have gone and just like, given a fake script and then, you know, the actual thing.
Just sold coaching. I should have just hard sold.
Yeah, if you want to come with me, I'm now offering business mentorship. I got you.
So basically, I did that. Went on with coaching. COVID hit. Kind of just pushed on from there. Was coached by Josh Benjamin at the time. We became quite close because he was. Yeah, I know. We became quite close during COVID. We were like an hour for each other. So I started training with him, and then it came the opportunity. If he was like, I want a second coach. So I was like, look, it's me. I'll be that guy. Basically, we'll speed it up. We went with that. That happened. I left Josh. No animosity. Just kind of time to fly. Then here I am kind of coaching. Now obviously got a second coach myself. In terms of the competitive side of things, I always knew I wanted to step on stage. I also knew I wasn't ever going to be that good at it. Like, I think I'd probably say from 2019, 2020 was when I was like, I'm going to step on stage. Didn't step on stage till 24. So 2024. I was 23, but it was in 2024. And I was, how many days was I? 4 days away from not being a junior. So I was like, I'm milking this. And then that was when I turned up. I was the only non-natty there, and I was also the oldest there, and I came third. So I was like, right, well, bodybuilding isn't really the thing for me.
Fair, man, fair. Yeah, I mean, mate, first of all, I remember I was working with Christian when you were working with him to do that prep, and I remember looking at it, and it's fucking ridiculous. I can still think of those shots in my head, and your quads especially. I'm sure you get it all the time.
Yeah.
Your front lat was fucking nasty, man. Really, really nice, man. So as much as you say that bodybuilding, you know, wasn't for you, or there's more genetically gifted people. You definitely have a really fucking good physique overall.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think it's just a case of like, just that environment of not being natty, being as old as I was. Could I go on and do more and do better? Yeah. Do I want to? Yeah. But what I had to do to get there, and like the amount of drugs I was taking, all that kind of stuff, I'll still do it. I'll still step on stage again. It was just more of like okay, I've got it, but what I need to do to be where I want to be is like, I'm not currently willing to take that risk right now. I think that's a big thing with bodybuilding. It's like, okay, where do you want to be? Is that risk within your range? And also, it's all well and good saying that, but that risk can change quite a bit. Like at that time, if you told me to take 3 grams of gear and come on my deathbed, like I would have been so close to that, I would have done it. And now I'm like, there's more important things to me right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was probably a similar way at like 21, maybe even 22. Just like, if like basically the approach of like, okay, either genetics will get me there or drug load will get me there.
Yeah.
And then you try the higher drug load and you're like, actually, this doesn't really feel as good as I thought potentially.
Yeah.
Jumping back a little bit, I'm sorry, I was taking notes on what you were saying.
Cool.
You mentioned, I think it was like, what, GCSE PE was where you kind of started. Has it always been fitness, or kind of like the theory behind fitness that you've been interested in, or did you kind of deviate from a path? Because, I mean, to follow it from like pre-GCSE up to where you are now is like very impressive, but arguably a bit uncommon.
Yeah, so it was always teaching or education. It wasn't originally PE, it was actually music. So I'm not any good at them now, but self-taught myself drums, piano, guitar. And I say self-taught, some of them you take lightly, like piano was like I could do a few little things. Guitar I was pretty sufficient at, and drums I was pretty good at, right? And then it was more so, and I think this is where I really got into coaching and education more. There was just a PE teacher. Like that, we all have a teacher. We all have someone who like that was the cool guy. He just like hooked me in, and even now, like I actually sent him a message probably about 6 months ago just to say like thank you, and like how he's basically shaped my life, like who he was as a person and how he taught. It was very much like
Yeah.
it was just more of like a, he is respected and you will earn his respect, and then he will teach you everything and give you the world. Like he'd stay behind, he'd do all this kind of stuff for you. And that was then when I was like, okay, well, he's a PE teacher, seems a bit more laid back than music, and a bit more like, I was just better at the practical of that and the theory of it. So I kind of just went down that route, and then it was just from then on, it was like, okay, like I say, sport in college, a nice easy degree, and then just kind of cracked on from there.
Okay.
What did you study?
What drew? Sorry, go on, come on.
Yeah, what did you study at uni?
So I did, it was sports studies basically. So I'm not like, I'd say I'm well versed in everything, but I didn't specifically dive into one thing. So it would have been like rehab, it would have been psychology, entrepreneurship, like it was everything. I didn't go in and do like just rehab and kind of physio or anything like that. So it was everything, which was, for me, I quite like, because like I am quite holistic in terms of things. I didn't just kind of zone in on one thing. So I think that kind of works in my favour.
I think that's like
Right.
without I know we didn't bring you on here just to butter you up, but I will do a little bit because I hold you in very high regard for what that's worth. But like I think that is what has given you such success and rise.
Yeah.
Is being very multifaceted in knowledge. A lot of coaches are you're the this guy, you're the this guy, you're the drugs guy, you're the training guy, you're the food guy, you're the microbiome guy, whereas the things that you talk about is definitely varied and to a good degree of detail, where it's like you're clearly not just going on ChatGPT and being like, you know, what can I gather? So I think that's definitely to your benefit. Do you think, here's an interesting question, as the three of us actually, because Matty's having issues, but the three of us have all got big boy degrees. Do you think that coaching degree was helpful or maybe necessary? Would either of those words fit for you, do you think?
I think
If it was helpful, was it necessary?
I think there wasn't bits for sure. I think things that I learned in uni, I also kind of learned over my level 3 PT and fitness instructor. I think they kind of intertwine within reason. The things I picked up most was the rehab based stuff, the psychology based stuff more than anything, and just like the intricacies of things, rather than being in like school and college where it's like your hip bone connects to your leg bone and you just, you know, like that kind of stuff, when you can go into things and see how joints move and that kind of stuff. I think I definitely valued that, and more than anything, I personally feel like what you get from uni is just spending time doing something, whether you like it or not, and learning to be good at discussing things in different lengths of time. So obviously you've got like 2,000 word things you need to put in, 10,000 word, 15,000 words. I think being good at different variations of things. So like, okay, if we want to have a quick chat right now, I can give you a story worth of information, but I can also give you a podcast worth of information and be pretty good at both of them and like back myself up. I think more than anything, just the ability to talk in kind of different lengths of time depending on what someone will come to me with. I think that's probably it.
So would you say that if you were to redo it at the time, or I'll tell you what, here's a bit of a multifaceted question. If you were to redo it at the time, would you go back and do that degree? If the answer is yes, would that change nowadays? I think more so, I guess, from like a listener perspective, would you say that it's worth going and doing something like a degree? Obviously education is. But
Yeah, I think in today's day and age, I don't think I would. I've always said this, I've always said this to my younger brother as well. I think education is a great way to spend some money, but I think you can spend more money elsewhere and be more well versed. For example, really good example is like J3 University. Right, it covers everything, and you spend what, 500-600 quid, or you can go and spend 2-3 grand. Sorry, 2-3 years spending 8-9 grand a year. I think education is just, and not even so much now. It was a quicker way to get what you wanted, right? And now it's like, well, the amount of people that don't even need degrees now. Like I think it was like last year, people were asking like, well, can we just be refunded because we're now being told in the job that they've done a 4-year degree and a master's that they don't need that degree anymore. So I think at the time, for what I wanted originally to be a teacher and stuff, it was like, well, I needed that. Going back now, everyone, I mean, look how many coaches there are, and there's pretty good coaches that realistically don't know a lot anyway. So
Yeah.
probably wouldn't, knowing that I was as good as I am at a coach.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. One thing, me and Camille were talking about education recently, and Camille raised a good point that he said and it's something that the both of us have done,
Mm.
probably all three of us actually. He said, also, Camille, can you just do a quick mic test? Does that mic work? Okay, no worries. Is that you'd probably be better off taking the money and working with someone, like picking a rehab specialist, or
Yeah.
picking a nutritionist, or picking, like, I mean, when it was a thing, the PT project was huge for me in my early days. For just like going and having these specialists on hand, and yeah, you pay significantly less, you learn significantly more, and it really does open up avenues. And I think especially learning from someone who's doing exactly what you want to do, or something adjacent, has a lot more direct benefit than just going through and like doing a random degree. Sorry, we're having so many technical difficulties.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's miles better. You were really quiet before. Okay, mint. So obviously you mentioned as well that you worked with Josh Bridgman, who I think nowadays is probably less in the fitness space than he used to be. I've got a lot of like younger clients who don't know who he is, which is mental to me because back in the day he was part of the big three. What made you go with Josh as a coach initially?
At the time, I think his openness, which is kind of what I am myself personally, I think his openness is like, okay, I'm jumping on PEDs, this is how it's going to be, this is the good, the bad, the ugly. I think that era with, you know, people like Joe Jeffrey, like Cal, Ray Straight, like all those kind of people, they were just open and honest. This is what I'm doing. You either like it, you don't like it. This is not just I'm doing it and it's amazing. I'm doing it and I'm seeing these symptoms. I'm doing that kind of stuff. So I think more than anything, his personability, like I essentially bought from him because he was a human being more than anyone, at least from who I was following. And that's the big thing that I kind of believe people buy from. Like I've had conversations with like potential clients before and they're like, I would go to you because you are a human being, right? If you want a robot or you want just a quick response, you go to ChatGPT, which I think is happening so often now where it's like it doesn't matter how smart you are these days. If you can sell and you can have some kind of personality, you're probably going to do better than most people now. So yeah, I went with Josh more than anything because of like the experience that he showed. I don't necessarily think I was looking for someone that was super knowledgeable and knew everything. I wanted someone that looked like they were adapting and getting better, was also open to criticism from other people, and also kind of like showing off the fact that they're human too. You know, he smoked weed, he went out and enjoyed food, he went out and trained hard, but did loads of other stuff. It was just like, you're a human, and you're not just like this robot that's going to shout at me and do this. It's like you're going to understand a bit more.
What was it like working with Josh? I promise we won't make the entire thing about someone you previously worked with. That feels a bit mean to do. But out of curiosity, what was it like? Because obviously you've gone from co-coach, or whatever phrase you want to use, to now having a co-coach. What was that like at the time?
So what was it like specifically being a coach with him?
Yeah, I mean, well, you've co-coached only for Josh? Do
Yeah,
you have any other
yeah.
experiences? Okay. Yeah, so what was it like, I guess, being in that co-coach seat, and also, obviously, part of that will be working with Josh and his brand?
Yeah, I mean, it came to a pretty honest and not rough end. Like, we were on amicable terms and we still talk every now and then. I definitely learned things I didn't like and things I didn't want to do. And that's like, I'd say that to his face. We had this conversation. He said it on the podcast too. I learned a lot about him. I learned how to run a business, how to price things, how to talk to people and kind of like stand my ground. But I just, basically the reason we left was because of who Josh is and his high profile. It was Alpha Lee, it was 1MR, it was his coaching business. I was just at the bottom of that food chain. So although I would have made him money, the money that he would have got to promote me and all that kind of stuff just wouldn't have made sense for him to go and get another 50 sales on Alpha League and another X amount on there and X amount on there. And that's, like I said, it's nothing against him. It just doesn't make sense to him. Working for him as a whole was mega. Like I really do think it's the reason I am here today and like as well versed as I am, because he paid for courses. You know, I did all the muscle mental stuff. If I wasn't with Josh, I would not have the education I have, because I was 19, 20, yeah, probably it was 2019, 2020, where I just went full into the deep end of like muscle mentals, mechanics, all that kind of stuff. And at that time it was first of all new, but to be a 19-year-old doing that, I was like, well, at that time I was like, what are you gonna, like, who's going to touch me? Generally that was kind of like my thought process at the time. It's like, who is going to touch me? remember turning up and it being bigger, better coaches, and I'm just the youngest there. But I took that in like I took it in a cocky way. I took it as like, well, cool, I am the young gun, and I think that definitely helped me a lot in terms of like just building confidence. Like, to a lot of people, I'm not super confident, and I'm kind of aware of that for a lot of people. But I think I got a lot of that in my pros now from Josh. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't change it at all.
Gotcha, man. I remember at the time, like given a kind of a third person perspective, of all of the coaches with co-coaches, he was definitely the quietest about having one.
Mm-hmm.
So hearing you said that, with which Josh Bridgman, if you're listening, because you definitely are, because he listens to our pod all the time, mate, and Josh, we go way back. That was a joke for anyone listening, but like without any like bad blood, I'm sure he would agree. He definitely didn't promote that he had a co-coach at all. It was always Josh Bridgman. All of his brands are Josh Bridgman, which is fair enough. So it's then hard to kind of be like Josh Bridgman in brackets and Ethan Harris.
Yeah. And I mean, even now, like, sorry to interrupt, even now he's got a second coach. He's got a second coach.
Has he?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, he's got a second coach who does well, but doesn't need to promote, because it's simply a case of, okay, you've come to Josh Bridgman, oh, you can't afford me, I've got a second coach. And they just go, okay, cool. And it was the same thing with me. I would deal with all inquiries. I would just go, okay, you want coaching with Josh? We'll have a conversation. I'll be the, the setter, the what's the other one? The closer. It would either be, you'll go to Josh or you'll come to me. And it was as simple as that. And it just simply at the time, especially being 19, small, not genetically gifted, it was like, well, I'll obviously go to Josh. Because at the time as well, I know he's pretty expensive now, but at the time it was super cheap. You pay, what would it have been, 175 then to go to Josh Bridgman and IFBB Pro. It was like, cool, you do that. So yeah,
that's almost an undercoach in a way, of like a kind of a downsell in a way. Bless you, mate.
Yeah.
Do you think, I feel like I know the answer to this question, but it's a nice little snippet. Do you think that shaped how you approach bringing on co-coaches? Obviously, being in those shoes of being brought onto someone else's brand, I guess more appropriately, how has that shaped how you bring on other coaches?
Yeah, I am very confident in how I can help other people, and specifically Han, my second coach. From the conversations that I've had with people in terms of the percentage she's getting, all the kind of stuff, and the help she's getting, like it is really good. It's better than I got, and I think I'm fortunate enough to know what percentage I was getting, and kind of, I'm not going to say how shafted I was, because at the time it was still really good, but how I could have got it better. And I'd spoken to other guys, I've spoken to people like, okay, well, what were you getting? And I think it's definitely shaped, and I'm confident in saying the boss that I will be and can be, and all that kind of stuff will shine through. Like I've said to Hannah herself, like I would not be surprised if she has similar amount of clients as I do, and excels within 6 months, and her prices are going up and up and up and up. And I'm also working in the way, because one thing that I really valued from Josh was, it was like, if you leave today and you've got 50 clients, you take 50 clients, there's no cut. You just take them all, you just crack on, you just do all that kind of stuff. And I said the same thing to Hannah. I was like, look, if you decide in 6 months' time it's either booming, you don't like it, whatever it may be, just let me know. Maybe give me a month in advance so I can sort finances out, but you crack on and you kind of do that. So yeah, I think it will go incredibly well, in my honest opinion. And I do think, a lot of that is because I've had the experience to say what I absolutely love, but also what I was like, oh, I don't really like that. So, yeah.
I think the key thing that you're doing well, in my opinion, is what I try and do. Hopefully Camille nods along with this, but we all have different roles, rather than just kind of being like the same coach times 3 in different price points.
Yeah.
It's like, if someone wants Camille, they're probably not going to want me or Matty, because he offers something very unique. And kind of like vice versa with me or Matty. So like, if you're going for any of us, it's not going to be like who you can afford. It's going to be more so like, what are you seeking? And any 3 of us can say, well, look, if you're really after this and you really want to work with me, I mean, I can do it, but that other guy is going to be better. And I think that's something that, like, obviously with the more like the divide that you and Hannah have, I'm sure if she gets male clients, she'd be like, yeah, sure, but that's kind of what
Yeah.
Ethan's for, and probably
Yeah,
vice
yeah.
versa. And I think, doing it that way rather than just being like, here's Hannah, she's Ethan Harris, but 50 quid cheaper. It's like,
Yeah.
you kind of, it creates a very one-way dynamic, I think, and that's why co-coaches leave. And if you think about a lot of the co-coaches who have left, it's always they're like just basically the smaller version of who owns the business is.
Yeah, I think it definitely is BWOW versus a business. Like you've got the differences. So it's like, okay, what do you want? Go to them. I think that's definitely something you need more than anything. And I think like even going down to what I said to Han, because someone was like, "Oh, you don't coach Han, or you've never had this long relationship." Like you don't need that. Obviously, it's cool. It would be. I did coach Han for a little bit, and that's why I was like, okay, we'll do this. But the way I see things is, I want people below me to go and do other things and have different coaches. Like if you look at some of the best coaches, they've gone through the rounds of, they've gone to Joe Jeffrey, they've gone to Cal, they've gone to Martin Winch, like they've done all those things, and I think that's the way it should be. I think I was having a conversation with someone who is a second coach, and he was like, I feel like he's moved on now, but he was like, I feel like I can't move on because I feel like it's gonna tear things apart. I was like, it wouldn't be that, because if you are potentially coached by that person for too long, or your coach that you're with and coaching for, like you say, you essentially become them, and there's nothing wrong with that. Especially like for you two, if you are you are coaching Camille, he's rehab, so there is this big difference. But I think when it's like, oh, I'm just a coach that coaches everyone, okay, well, he's just a coach that coaches everyone, and he looks better, and then eventually the second coach just doesn't get any.
Doesn't get fed.
Yeah, literally.
Although in my case, it would be that Camille would nick all my clients because he looks better than me. He's younger than me. Yeah, I mean, it's like Camille, he started, and we'll promote it here. Camille's got a coach for rehab who he does education with as well.
Okay.
And they have a podcast, and so shout out that. And I remember, Camille, you came to me and you're like, oh mate, is it all right if I do this? I was like, mate, like fucking absolutely, because like you can do everything in the world to do with rehab coaching, it's never going to step on my toes ever.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason why, particularly with rehab, there's no reason why someone can't get coached by the both of us, and in fact a fair few people do.
Yeah.
Which works out perfectly. Whereas again, if we had that dynamic of classic like coach and under coach, it's like you're basically kind of perpetually a second choice, because and even on the sheets and everything, it's a constant reminder of like, oh yeah, you could be with this guy, but you're with this guy.
Yeah,
100%.
With kind of coaching and talking about like coaching and the way that it shaped you, what are the different the different coaches that you've worked with? If you don't mind sharing, if there's any really bad experiences, you can just.
That's all cool. Yeah, no. So I think the first thing, I said this last week actually, every coach I've been with was exactly who I needed at that time. So would I go back to half of them or two of them? No, I wouldn't. That's just not what I need right now. So started off with Josh Ridgman, and that was probably about 2.5, 3 years, maybe a little bit more than 3 years. Then had a short stint of 15, 16 weeks with Coach Rab. Now owns his own what's it called, gym up in Scotland. So it was literally 15 weeks. We were close. He was pretty cheap at the time as well, and I was like, I want the training side of things because he's done all the mechanic stuff, and I was like, cool, I'd do that. Literally 15, 16 weeks, no bad blood. It was just like, I want to move on basically. Went to Christian Chapman, was with Christian for 2.5 years. There was a little bit of a break in between, and then it was like the typical, I'm not going to bodybuild anymore, I don't need a coach. I was about 5 weeks, and I was literally on holiday, and I was like, I'm prepping. And that was literally it. I went from, I'm not going to prep, I'm not bodybuilding anymore. And I was on holiday about 3 days in, and I was like, I'm going to prep next year. So finished that with Christian, and then that was pretty much it in terms of, like, there was no bad blood there at all. It was just, obviously, I don't know if we'll go into it at all, but went in hospital, kind of stopped, took time away, and then from that time there, it just felt right to go to someone else. And at the time, I'd spoken to Tom Taylor, and kind of went with that. And just same again, he was exactly what I needed at the time. just kind of moved on there. And then kind of like a short bit still with him is Josh Carr, just for like my training side of things. And with Josh Carr, I've also got sessions that I do with Chris Knott as well. If you know Chris Knott, mega. And I'll do sessions, which is kind of like education as well. And I'll see him every like 6 to 8 weeks. So, yeah.
Wow, man. Fair enough. With it's funny, we both went with Christian at the same time and both went with Tom at the same time. So I remember we met up at Tom's meetup in Tent. With that prep with Christian overall, like, how was that experience in general of obviously being a prep, kind of flinging yourself into it? Do you think there's anything that you potentially would change, or any insight that you'd give to people going through or about to go through a prep?
Would I change anything? Probably not. Not to do the cliche thing, because it worked out exactly as I wanted. There was a couple of injuries here and there. My training could have been a bit better. I maybe pushed it out in a few sessions and lost a little bit of size. I'll hold my hands up to that one. But I think the one thing that I gained from that was I wasn't someone that just went, I'm going to step on stage. Like, I'd had years doing it. I'd had years, I'd had someone on stage before I was on stage. So I was like, this is how things is going to go. Like, I think a really common thing that I never picked up on was I never had a week where I was like, oh, I look shit, because everything I saw was exactly what I expected. So when I was flat, I was like, well, I'm flat. I know I'm going to be flat. Not the like, oh my God, I need more food. I need this, I need that. Like, it was everything I expected. And I think that helped me. And I set out. So like, in terms of what I'd maybe recommend people do is don't look at yourself all the time. Don't go and do, like, posing is great. I give my clients posing every single day when they're in prep, but maybe not in front of a mirror. Maybe not taking pictures of your quads and your striations and your feathers every single day, because eventually that wears off. It's really cool when it's there, but then eventually when you do that and you go, but it was like that yesterday and there's not much change. Like, essentially you've got a coach because they can take the step back and go, this is this and this is that. Whereas you're just like, you're always looking for the bad things. Whereas like, as coaching, yes, we're looking at, okay, glutes can come in a bit more, lower back can come in a bit more, but we're going, okay, but this is really good. This is the standout for today. So I think if you are going to prep, it's cool to love yourself, and I'm all for that, but maybe just also give yourself a bit of a break, because you get that honeymoon period and then it's like, oh, I'm 2 weeks out now and I'm just not ready. I actually did a podcast on this myself about what to look for when starting a prep, but essentially, in long story short, I think you need to be physically stable, financially stable, mentally stable, and also stable in terms of your relationships. So I think people forget or aren't aware of how expensive bodybuilding is. You do 2 different federations, you do 3 different shows, you pay for tan, you pay for accommodation, you pay for all that kind of stuff, you pay for coaching if you're assisted, you pay for all that kind of stuff. It's expensive. Bodybuilding is extremely selfish. I got asked the question last week or the week before of like, if I could change anything about bodybuilding, what would it be? And I said, the toll that it adds and gives to the people within your life. Because people do lose relationships. Look at how many people, I know Alex Kent won't remind me saying this, but look how many relationships he's lost in preps. Like, every single prep, it's a new girl, lost it. Now he's obviously back with Ali now, but he said it himself, he's like, I'm just a prick when I prep. And if you don't get bodybuilding, it's tough. Like, I was fortunate enough to coach Summer through to my girlfriend through her prep, knowing everything that was going to go on. And even when she knew what was happening, she was like, you're a bit of a cunt today. Like, you were different to what I expected, but it was better because she understood it. And then I think, like, the physical side of things is there an injury? Are you just going to run that down? Are you going to run into an injury regardless because you are training shit? Are you just are you putting a plaster over a broken bone because you don't like how you look and you're going to go and run yourself down? Or is there problems that you need to fix? I think that's probably the big things. Like, you need the money because it is going to weigh you thin. You need the stability in terms of like everything within your life, because it will come back to bite you and then you probably won't finish a prep. Because like, I've had it myself, and I'm going to say it's not because of my bad coaching, but I'd say out of my second year of coaching, I was supposed to have 9 lads on stage. I ended up having 4 go through because they were like, oh, I see what you mean now. Like, I am fucked. And I'll always have the conversation of like, the same thing I said here, this. And they're like, yeah, all good. One was 6 weeks out. One was 2 weeks out. one was like a week out, and I think the other one was like 5 weeks into prep. And I was like,
a week is tough. A week out, that's fucking painful.
yeah, yeah. There was actually one who messaged me at 5 weeks out. I won't say his name, but he messaged me at 5 weeks out and said, "Oh, I've booked a holiday to Portugal, and I'll be 2 weeks out." So I was like, really wouldn't recommend that, whatever. He's like, well, I've done it. So I was like, okay. He's like, I can source anabolics, I can source all of this. Lo and behold, he messaged me.
Concern, mate.
Literally not a concern. Lo and behold, he messaged me and was like, I had some ice cream, I thought like I'd treat myself. And then the next day he was like, I think I'm going to call prep, we'll just do a photo shoot. And then the next day he was like, I don't even want you to coach me through the photo shoot because I know what I'm doing. And I was like, okay. The tough thing is, like, and I'm not slagging him off at all because I completely get it, but from an outsider to just see someone go off the face of an earth and suddenly you're not coaching them in a prep and you're like, well, what's that coach done? And it's like, I get why you see that, but it's just happens. It doesn't matter sometimes what you say or who you are to them or anything. It's so, especially these days, you see social media, you see the good things of it and bodybuilding, and then you just gun for it, and it's not all that.
Yeah, I think I've been a victim of this myself. Like you see people who are in stage condition, you're like, yeah, I want that. That looks fucking sick. But it's hard to actually envision what's going on behind stage and like what they actually need to do to get in that condition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've only dieted once with Jack, and we did a photo shoot prep, and I remember going hyper for the first time. I remember texting Jack, being like, Jack, I think I'm gonna die. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like my head's spinning. And my mate comes in with like a cinnamon swirl, and he was like, eat this, eat this, eat this. I was like, no, Jack's gonna kill me. I can't eat that. I can't eat that. He was like, look, just have one. I remember taking a bite of it, and like 5 seconds later, I was like, oh, I feel fine now. I don't know what happened. And then I was texting Jack. Jack was like, oh yeah, no, this is completely normal. You're going hypo. You might die from this, but don't worry, I won't make that happen. I was like, all right,
That's not quite what I said. That's not quite what I said. More emphasis on the I won't let that happen. But yeah.
But that definitely kind of opened my eyes to actually what dieting is like, not even just from a psychological perspective, but obviously also from a physical one. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, you got the Dr. Mike phrase of getting lean versus exotically lean. All of the Mike-isms is probably one of my favourite. But yeah, like it is just different and difficult. I had a client who, again, I won't say his name, and he was due to prep last year and he pulled out, and like I kind of thought he might, because he came to me and was like, I go to the gym, I want to do bodybuilding, I want to do a bodybuilding show. I was like, okay, sure, like who am I to say no, I don't think you can, because what if you can, right? I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. So we started off fairly aggressive because it made sense to, and I also was like, I want to give him a little bit of a flavour. I'm just going to kind of dance on that knife edge of fucked a little bit, and then revive him and then be like, how are we, man? You okay? Cool. Let's maybe slow it down a bit and we can ease into this. And there was a little bit of feeling fuckedness, and I arranged for us to go see a show, and he saw it, and then like 2 days after he was like, yeah, man, I think I'm just gonna call it. I was like, yeah, fair enough. And like, you know, it happens. I mean, I think if every coach talked about how many pulled preps they had, it would be like, I think it's probably higher than 50% nowadays.
Yeah.
Because so many people just jump into them. Like it's crazy. But you know, it equally, like hearing that, Camille, to put your mind at rest, a lot of the people who say they want to prep are like, you know, they watch TikTok, they kind of maybe track food, so they kind of maybe have abs and they kind of maybe have muscle, and they're like, I want to prep. And you introduce them to like an actual deficit, and they're like the kind of people, I'm generalizing, this is quite mean, but I do see a lot of it even with just like mini cuts and photo shoot preps of the classic, hey coach, I was hungry so I just had this snack. And it's like, that's not how this works. Like, yeah, you're gonna be hungry, and you're hungry because you also undershot your protein target. And yeah, like the phrase, you're choosing to do this, comes to my mind as often, like kind of, I guess, reassurance, but also rebuttal of like, this is what you signed up for. Either you need to stay in line with that, or you need to, like, your actions need to meet that outcome, or your outcome needs to change to match your actions.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think
I think it's dependent on like
cool.
how long it has been of you actually wanting to step on stage. So like if someone like just goes to the gym and maybe they're 2 3 years in, they know a little bit about building muscle, they might have some of it physique, and suddenly they decide to do a bodybuilding prep and they're like, okay, in the next 8 months I want to compete. That prep is going to look very different compared to someone like me who, after like my first 6 months in the gym, I was like, I want to compete. And I've been almost like fantasizing about the thought of like, this is actually my chance to show what I'm worth. And that's manifested over 6 years. So for someone like who maybe was just going to the gym, has a little bit of muscle, has a little bit of understanding, they jump into a prep compared to someone who's prepared for many, many years, many off seasons, many diets, practicing, pulling different levers, etc., etc. I think that might be a big determining factor because ultimately, like the more that you want it, the more likely you are to get it. I think it's as simple as that. Like if you truly want it, you'll do it. And like one of the best things I think you can do for prep is just to do like a mock prep, like a photo shoot or something, just to get dieting experience. Like that was as fucked as I was. Like looking back at it, it was like the period in my life that taught me the most about myself because that really rolled into my mind, being like, I want to be a bodybuilder. Had you spoken to me at the time, and Jack can back me on this, after we finished that photo shoot, I started powerlifting. I was like, I hate bodybuilding. I don't want to be a bodybuilder. I want this. I got injured. I herniated my disc because I was deadlifting twice a week. And yeah, so I had that phase, but I think I almost rebelled in a sense because I've actually realized what it takes to be a bodybuilder. Not to say that I stepped on stage, but I got a flavor for it. I was like, okay, like this is fucked. Like you really have to push yourself. And I think that's ultimately what drives us bodybuilders. We just seek things that are hard. Like there's something sadistically enjoyable about doing an hour of cardio a day, 15,000 steps, feeling fucked, eating fuck all food. But the fact that the majority of people, like you guys said, more than 50% of people pull out preps, that makes me happy. I'm like, majority of people cannot do this,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I think sometimes sometimes you won't even get it right until you do it. Like so when we started prep, Christian was like, you don't have to prep. And even halfway through, and at the end of it, he was like, I don't know how you did that. And I was like, me neither, because every single diet, oh, I've slipped up, I've overeaten. Oh, I've slipped up, I've overeaten. And then
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
only in the moment when I went to was it my mum's 50th? I think it was my mum's 50th and my granddad's 80th. We went out for restaurant food, and it was like, it's not even an option. Like I am there, I'm happy to sit there. I was fully happy with it, and my granddad was like, why don't you eat? Like it's on the house, order it. And I was like, no, you don't get it. Like if I wanted to eat it, I would. Like it's physically not even an option for me to go and order something right now. I've got my oats, and right now my oats looks a lot better than the steak you're eating. And that was like genuinely the mindset. And like people used to ask me like, "Oh, are you hungry?" No, and they'd be like, "Yeah, but you are." And I remember until about 6 weeks out, I was like, food isn't an option, so hunger isn't a thing. Like I used to tick my sheets off, and it'd be like 1 out of 5 hunger, 1 out of 5 hunger, until like 4 weeks, and it just slapped me in the face. And I'm like, it's
Yeah.
just because you just don't think of food. Like refeed isn't an option. Going and eating off pan isn't an option. And then it's only when like you are 4 to 6 weeks out, and you're like, oh, in 4 weeks' time, I can go and eat some food, and that kind of takes over because you're like, oh, not long until I'm done. But like from myself, who just couldn't nail a diet. Like I kept putting off practice. I'm like, oh, again, I've not done it. And it was only when I was on holiday and I was like, well, what if I actually just say I'm going to do it? Once you've said it, it's like, well, I can't back. I'm the person. I'm not going to back down. If I said I've done that, I don't care if I'm wrong. Like I'm not backing down. It could be an argument, and if I'm like, if I've come to the conclusion of that, I'm right some way, and I'm going to convince you that I'm right. And you just crack on, and you can suddenly do it.
Maybe
Yeah, there
like
was
someone
one
who
time
used
when
to
I,
come on, go on, mate.
I remember, sorry, it's short, don't worry. But I remember Jack passing this bit onto me. Um, and it was something like when someone asks you how you feel in prep, you just say you're fine. Like if
Oh
prep,
yeah,
like you expect to be hungry, you expect to be tired. So if someone asks you how do you feel, like you expected to feel this way, you knew what you signed up for. So
Hmm.
yes, you're hungry. You expected to be hungry, so you're fine. It's nothing out of the ordinary. If you were in prep and something external happened, like I don't know, loss of a family member, for example, to be quite extreme, then that would warrant more of an emotional reaction. But like ultimately, it's everything it says on the tin. Like if you know anything about prepping, you're gonna know that you're going to be hungry and you're going to be tired. Like if you don't understand that core principle, just don't prep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes down to like you're choosing to do this, and it's one thing I've tried to remind myself constantly this year is my New Year's resolution is to like the way that I phrase it is like not trap myself in things I like with coaching, with bodybuilding. I have a tendency to move from I want to I must.
Hmm.
And then when I reflect on it, I'm like, no, I still want to do this. But, you know, in the short term, it will be like, I'm tired, I've got this many check-ins, like, I've got calls to get through, I've got so much work to do. And I have to sit myself down and go, you chose, like, you can just not do this.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, no, I love this, why would I not do it? And I'll be like, well, there you go, then, like, do it with a smile on your face, you idiot. And it's the same thing with, like, training or, you know, really anything. Like, I have a really bad tendency to just turn so militant on myself that I'm like, I have to, and then I turn it into like I turn it into like I'm doing it, but I'm dragging my feet, and I have to kind of pick myself up and be like, mate, you can, like, these are all entirely choices, and I think that's why I like kind of like I've always tried to keep an active effort to have a social circle of people who are not only bodybuilders but also have a social circle of people who are not bodybuilders. So I can be like, I'm weird, what I'm doing is weird, prep isn't normal, like, or coaching isn't normal, like, people don't tend to work 6 days a week, and people don't tend to get really anxious because they've got to go on the hack squat, and people don't tend to get worried about, I've got to bring my food, am I going to be hungry when I'm going out, or, you know, everyone's going out so late, is that going to fuck my bedtime, everyone's going to be drinking, am I going to be able to keep my energy up? Like, those are not thought processes that people have, and I'm the outlier, and I'm choosing to have that, and therefore I need to just be like, well, I'm choosing this, so this is sick, like, because if I didn't want to do it, then I wouldn't. I think it's so easy to trap yourself in that. And one thing I was going to say as well is about the mindset of like whether someone's ready for prep. If the conversation is, I think people should be excited for prep, it's not what I'm saying, but when someone says, hey man, I'm really excited to get peeled, and then in the same breath it's like, oh, but I'm worried, I'm concerned, I'm like, good, like, fantastic, brilliant, you know, it's like you understand this. You know, it's like me and Camille had a chat where we talked about some stuff, and we were kind of like, you know, how are we going to do this, how am I going to do that, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that, and it's like, good, like, realistically you should be, but because you're worried, or there are thoughts in your head, it shows that you care, you know. And it's the people who think, yeah man, I'm just going to prep, and it's like, if that's your first time and you have no concern at all of like, how am I going to get through heavy work days, am I going to be tired, how tired am I going to be, that's quite scary. It's like, there should be a little bit of fear input, because that means that you respect the prep and you know what's going to go into it. You should still be excited for it anyway, take those things in stride, but if someone goes, yeah, I'm going to be hungry, and then there's no fear of that hunger, or no fear of that tired, or how hard it's going to be, it's like, I don't know if you know what this is going to be like, man.
Yeah. I think there's also, just to kind of almost play like devil's advocate, is there's a big difference between observation and complaint as well. I think that's one thing I really picked up on, and this is for anyone that's looking into it. Although we're being like, yes, you're going to be hungry, crack on with it, also let people know how you're feeling, let your coach know how you're feeling. Don't be the person that every single morning you're like, oh, my legs are heavy today, oh, cardio is really, like, every 10 minutes, oh, still tired. But like, we know you're going to be tired. For me, for example, I think there was maybe 5 or 6 times on prep when I was like, I'm fucked. Christian was like, okay, rather than just like, out of 10, where are you? And you think like, there was one point where I'm like 10. He's like, well, why didn't you tell me when you were like 8? Because you've gone from nothing to 10. He feeds me up. Suddenly I'm like, oh, I should have observed this a little bit sooner. Every time I did it. And it was that point where Christian was like, well, you're not someone that complains. So when you are, like, he was like, how many times have you been hypo? And I'm like, I'm going hypo like every 3 hours at the minute. And he was like, you probably need to tell me that. And I'm like, oh, well, I just kind of, you know, I just thought I'd man up. And he was like, no, tell me that. And then suddenly, from 8 weeks out, cardio's gone. I've gone from doing an hour a day to nothing, just from 8 weeks out. And he was like, we would have done this sooner, but you've tried to be the hard guy. And like, there's Nothing wrong with saying how you feel. That's what your coach is there for. But just don't be that person that's like, oh, morning, mate, I'm really tired today. And then you're on cardio. God, this 50 minutes is dragging. Like, if you do that, you're not going to get where you want. You're not going to get that feed because it almost, someone comes to me and does that. I'm like, I don't want to feed you up. Whereas I've got someone who's like a mechanic and he's just busy and he's doing 15K steps and he's like, I'm tired. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to do something about that. So it's just like how you observe within reason will help you, and you're probably going to get more food if you do it at the right times more than anything.
Yeah, I think what you said about you have to be a human being to be a good coach is so, so important because like having that relationship with your coach where you feel open enough to actually talk about these things because inevitably in prep you're going to be really vulnerable, and you're going to need a safe space, and sometimes that safe space isn't going to be your missus, sometimes that safe space isn't going to be your family. Realistically, your coach is the only person standing in the fire with you. So if you don't have that relationship, and if the coach doesn't understand you psychologically, what drives you, when you might not be opening up, when you need a little bit of poking, etc., that makes the dynamic so much more difficult. And that's why like me and Jack work so well because me and Jack actually went to the same school. We've known each other for years and years. Bearing in mind, he was a bit of a nerd in school, so I didn't really talk to him then. But
Nothing's changed. Nothing's
like
changed, man.
he's coached me for a while now, but also like we work together, so like he like understands me like a book. Like he immediately like if in the last prep like if I wasn't telling him something, like he'd already pinpoint it and know exactly what it is without me even telling him. Like sometimes we'd wake up and be like, "You're fucked today, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really, really fucked." But again, like I think for anyone who's listening, like if you really want to sort of bulletproof your prep, get with a coach long before you actually go into prep, so you have time to develop that relationship with them. Because inevitably, the better that your relationship is with your coach, the better outcome they can provide you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It links to what Ethan said there, like the type of communication that you give. Are you a complainer? Are you the stoic type? Are you varying? It's like almost sometimes if someone's complaining, it's like, okay, well, you've got the energy to complain. So, and like, what are we complaining about? And I remember with the most recent prep we did Nat, first two shows, sound like very stoic guy, but would crack on. But would convey, and kind of his communication was really clear. Third show, radio silence for like 3 days. Immediately I rung him, like first thing I woke up, and I was like, talk to me, like what's going on, what's wrong? Absolutely fucked. And it's like, because you've got that relationship through off season, through the majority of the prep, when something is deviating or something is wrong, and you can kind of what to reach out for. Whereas I've got other clients where if I don't hear from them in 3 days, that might not necessarily be a concern, whereas there's others where it's like, yeah, that's uncommon, that's unusual.
Yeah, and I think just like there will be certain clients that'll be different things, and I think that's what changes is because you can be the coach that the client needs. Like I will have some, like you say, where I just won't message. I've had some where I was in France for a show for a client, and he was like, it would have been 2 days out. It's like, I think we need to start drying out now. And I'm like, what are we on about here? He's like, yeah, 2 days out, I think we should start pulling water now. And I'm like, we don't do that. Ring me up now, do your check-ins, we'll do our rounds of posing, we'll have a little chat. And just from doing that and posing, you're like, do you see where you're going wrong here? Like, if we pull water out now and you kind of explaining things and you have that, then you can do that. But equally, there'll be clients there. It's like, okay, this is it. That's what we're doing for the day. And I know they're fine. But I've also got clients where, for example, I've got a client now who's 9 weeks out. If we're not messaging daily, I'm like, ooh, something's gone on there. We're 9 weeks out. Most of the time, I'm like, okay, 3-4 times check-ins a week, maybe. Sometimes not even that. And I'm like, it's now 10 p.m. He's not messaged me, and I'll just be like, how you doing? He'd be like, oh, I'm good. And I'm like, great. I just need to double check that because as much as he will talk to me, I'm also like, you may not also talk to me. So we're just like, sometimes I've had clients before 12 weeks out. We're talking every single day, morning and night, just because that's what you need. And they're okay with that. It's never been like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then there are guys where it's like, I'll just message you when I need you. If you want changes in the check-in, just message me. And that's it. So, yeah.
I feel like a lost art to coaching is like creating that rapport and not just being a coach. And like kind of, I think it definitely goes for lifestyle, if you any of you are listening are like a lifestyle coach, particularly like, let's take an example, right? You've got a client on fat loss. Client struggles with fat loss, that's why they're with you. If every single time you communicate it's fat loss, fat loss, fat loss, fat loss, fat loss, you become to embody the idea of fat loss. And so if they go off the rails, they're not talking to you.
Yeah.
Because you are the very thing that they have turned their back on. And if all you are is like, you know, it's like a PT in a gym for people is just the idea of going to the gym. And so, you know, like you'll see all the time, talk to PTs, when clients have birthdays and Christmas and stuff, they'll just kind of air you. Because the idea of the gym is so over there, they're actively avoiding it, and you're in that bubble. Whereas if you're, you know, oh, that's fucking Ethan. Like, yeah, he's my coach, but that's Ethan, bro. I talk, like, we're fairly close. I respect his shot calling, but like, bro, that's my mate. You know, we're pretty good. So it's like, you know, you're more likely to share that. And I think that is a lost art in coaching now. In that, yeah, you get athletes, and like, I'd say I'm probably one of them, where like, I remember Tim said in a check-in, he said, there's not many people I reply to late at night, but if you message me at 10 p.m, I know something was up.
Yeah.
Because I'm fairly quiet as a client, which isn't good or bad, it's just something. But there are clients where, and I used to be one when I was younger, where it's like, you just need to chat some shit with your coach a little bit.
Yeah.
And just be like, you know, fucking, like, I think Christian is probably the best example of it. You'd be like, mate, you seen the new fucking McLaren? I don't know, cars is an easy one with Christian, right? He'd be like, yes, bruv, like, let's get it, let's go, let's get it. You know, he'll do all that shit. Love you, Christian. And you know, he'll build that rapport. He'll actually talk to you. And I think a lot of coaches nowadays are double tap the message and move on, because what's that got to do with what we're doing in prep right now? And I think that's a lost art for when a client is feeling vulnerable or isn't, you know, it's so much harder to reach out. And I think that's why coaches get aired, because it's like, you can text, you can call, and just fucking hang up if they really don't want to talk to you. And if you represent the thing they're running away from because they're failing, they're not going to reply.
Yeah, and I think people forget that something and things happen after the show. Like, you don't just step off stage and it's like, oh, we'll just go down to not talking anymore. It's like, no, well, what makes, you know, what drives you? What are you going to do after? What's that going to look like, right? And then it's like, I've built some of my closest relationships that are now clients and were clients because it was like, okay, well, we're messaging every single day. What car do you like? What food do you like? And it'll be like, oh, I'm just, you know, there was one where I was like, I'm going to buy you a hamper and you're going to have a post-show hamper. It was like, I don't know what to eat. I'm anxious about that. Cool. I'll message your girlfriend. We've had conversations with girlfriends, which I think is also a really good thing as a coach. If you can not like go into their life, but what is your partner saying? It's a common thing as well, where it just kind of fall into place where I'll see people X weeks out and their partner will come as well because they're into the gym. I'm like, if he's a prick, message me. If he's doing anything abnormal, message me. Because behind closed doors is a different story. Like, you can know people, and then like I've had conversations before and they're like, oh, I just thought I'd let you know, like 2 weeks ago he's just not really spoken to anyone at all. And I'm like, that explains it. 2 weeks ago the look started fading. So now I'll literally be like, give me your girlfriend's number. Like just give it to me, and like we can just have a conversation if it's needed, or follow me on Instagram. And I think when you can do that, that goes a long way as well.
I remember with, again, using Nat as an example, sorry to always bring you into this, Nat, but you're a great example. After I met his parents at the first show, because obviously he's a teen, and I gave them my number. And like for the entirety of the rest of his prep, I'm sure like Nat won't mind me saying, me and his mom were texting, because there's concern, like, you know, I'm running through blood work, I'm running through the plans that we're doing. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh my God, like he's not himself, he's so quiet, he's so isolated. And I'm like, okay, well, how long has this been going on for? Like, to some extent that is to be expected. He is tired. And, you know, like we were talking about things post show and stuff like that, and like setting expectations, and just like bodybuilding is entirely alien to them. And so for them to have like their only son go through something like that is incredibly like, what do you mean his bloods are out of range, but you're happy with them? Well, because he's 1 week post show, you know, like they're considering, if we had a reference range for 1 week post show, we'd be fucking superb, but we don't. We only have a reference range of where most people should be. And now luckily he's all back in range and everything, but during that time, removing that pressure of like, Nat's probably during prep not going to be participating in meals, but I've recommended to him that he can cook for you guys. Or if you're able to do this, that, the other, then that can work. After the show, here's what we can kind of expect, and just basically having his household understand, not stress him out, you know, and like giving ideas of like, okay, so he's tired in the evenings and you don't watch TV anymore, well, in the day can you guys go for walks together when he's got more energy, and all those things, like you said, they're kind of not fully inserting yourself in their life, but kind of being there, somewhat present, and kind of being a part of their environment does allow you to remove so much stress and have a far better idea of what's going on. And yeah, again, I think that's very much a lost art, and I say it in every podcast that we seem to do, but I think coaching is getting too mass market, too much of an arms race of, well, I've got 300 clients, I've got 400 clients, I work 100 hours a week, I work 200 hours a week, and it's like, I don't want the surgeon who's been awake for 60 hours to do my heart surgery.
My selling point as a coach is I've not got 50 clients. I've got less than 50 clients. So I'll get back to you. I'll give you effort. Don't get me wrong, people give effort. I'm not saying there's not coaches that don't care, but I don't have 50 clients. I don't. And they're like, but you got a second coach. I do have a second coach, and she doesn't have 50 clients. Like, we can do that. I'll have conversations with people's parents and their girlfriends and partners, and we'll have group chats, and we get to know each other. I've said this a lot. I wouldn't say I'm the first and last coach, but usually people come to me to get into bodybuilding or find out whether they like bodybuilding. And then also they'll come to me and be like, right, you've taught me everything, I'm going. Like, I don't need a coach anymore. And I think that's obviously not the way for everyone, but like, I think that's the way it is. Like, you will get everything. And some people, I said this yesterday, in the top 5 coaches in the UK, it's like, well, depends what you want from a coach. You know, the thing I want, and the coaches that I would go to are probably not even people's top 20, top 30. They're just not, but that's what I want, because I think I'm not looking for, they've got an Olympian, they've got 50 pro cards, they've got this, that. I'm looking for like, okay, how do I feel when I talk to you? Do I want to check in? Do I feel like if something goes wrong, you're going to help me, rather than be like, cool, this is it, we'll crack on. I think that makes a big difference too.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before, I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, but God, apparently I love agreeing with myself. If you coach 100 people and you get 30 or 40 transformations, you post them on Instagram, you look like you're killing it. But you failed 60 to 70% of your client base.
Yeah.
Like, the more people you coach, of course you've got 10 pro cards. You've coached 5,000 people. It's like, you know, there comes a point where it's like, if I applied the same thing to everyone, and some coaches do, this is no shot at anyone in particular at the top of our industry. I really want to clarify that. I genuinely have no one in mind for this. But if you copy and paste coach enough people with enough crap, someone will respond. Dozens of people respond. You know, you look at any study applying any form of exercise or nutrition regime, and you'll see there's success rates, because there always will be.
Yeah.
You know, and like, there are a lot of people, and if you have a big enough sample size, you can make anything successful for enough people to bring in more people. And yeah, it's like me and you, Ethan, at some point, I don't know if you still do, but we've both worked with Jack Rayner, and I remember when I wanted to bring on Camille, he said a similar thing to me of like, hey man, you're not full, you could have more people. And I was like, yeah, but I'd rather have like 1 or 2 people who work with me, and we all have individual roles, and we can all give you a highly detailed service. Like, I can be there for everyone's shows, you know, I can take the time to shoot the shit with you over on WhatsApp, you know, like, I can give you my personal number and say, and I do, if you need me, just fucking ring me. You know, like, if it's you know, like, if it's 9 p.m. and I'm watching Family Guy, but you're going hypo, ring me. Like, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about
I'll
it.
use that.
You know, and it's like, and like, there's only so much that like you can do that, and I personally don't want that to go away. Like, I'd rather work with less people and be really in those processes, and be like, look, if you come and work with me, I'm gonna give you exactly what you want, and I can offer that. And if you, for the next 6 months, need a phone call every day, we'll make it work, and we'll do it, because we can. Rather than, oh yeah, I've not got 2 coaches, I'm going to try and do everything myself, I'll try and rehab you, mate, I'll give it a good crack, I'm not as good as Camille, but you should still come to me. And then, you know, immediately I'm overcharging, I'm offering a service that, you know, I know there's someone better for, and now I'm also like getting fuller and fuller, and I've got less and less time.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I also look more into the people and the coaches that maybe do have business mentors and they are really successful, because I've seen things before and they're like, oh, this month I've signed up 20 clients. And I'm like, how have you signed up 20 clients? Like, how many have left? You know, what is the lifetime value of these?
Yeah.
Like, I'm seeing people are like, business
Yeah.
booming. This is the client every day now. And I'm like, how? Like, what are you giving them? I couldn't physically take on someone every single day, nor do I want to. I'm not someone that's gaining, 5 clients a month. Sometimes, 1 or 2 is a great month for me, but I also know I'm not losing people. I think that's the differentiation as well of like, okay, it looks really cool, but also when I stopped posting as about how well I was doing at points in times, I was like, I'm doing it because in my head it almost looked wrong. Look at me, I'm busy. Oh, I'm still busy. I'm still getting clients. I've been getting. It's like, oh, you've gained a client a month for the last 3 years now. How many clients have you got? Like, there's a point where you're probably gonna stop and slow down. You've got guys like Tim doesn't promote it. Joe Jeffrey, they just come in, and it's never, oh, clients have lost or I've gained X amount. It's just like, no, you know people are rotating, which is normal, but they're also not super busy all the time.
Yeah, exactly. You've gained a client a month for 3 years, and then you talk to them, and they've got like 24 clients, and you're like, have you? What? Or it's the 10K month, and it's because they've just sold like 3 years up front to 2 people or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. It's like, again, it just comes down to like your results, and if anyone listening wants to know how good a coach is, look at their results, look how often they're posting those results, and look if they're the same people. Especially like really top coaches, when I see them posting the same 5 or 10 people, I'm like, are we really at like a 5 to 10% hit rate right now? Like, I know that there's not always something exciting going on and reusing old stuff, like it has to happen, but it's like, why am I always like, if you're saying you've got 100 clients, why can't I name your top 5 clients?
Yeah.
And I don't see anyone else. It's like, how successful then are you in total? I should be seeing new faces constantly. And I think, again, to shout them out, like Tom Taylor's one, where whenever I go on his page, I'm like, there's someone new, there's someone new, there's someone new, there's someone new. I'm like, fuck, you really do have a lot of clients, and I can see all of them because they're all doing sick.
Or you go, oh, you've got loads of clients, oh, and you're still working with this guy. Like, is that as well? It's like, oh, from 4 years ago, you're still, okay, that's cool. I think it works both ways as well.
Yeah, long-term transformations, 2-year transformation, 3-year transformation. Here's how they started, here's where they are now. Like, that's really cool. That shows the value of a coach, what you can do in 3 years.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, in 6 months we got a bit leaner, in 6 months we got a bit bigger, because they were having issues, that's why they came to you, but can you continually give them that growth? A year on, 2 years on, 3 years on. If year 1 to year 2 looks the same, it's like, has your usefulness as a coach run out?
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, okay, we've overrun a little bit, and I don't want to keep either of you, because I'm sure you're both very busy. Ethan, mate, as much as this podcast is broadcast to millions and millions, we just have so many listeners. It's so worth plugging yourself on this. I'm kidding. Like, we don't have a ton of viewership, but plug away, mate. Where can people find you? Give us an elevator pitch of you and your value as a coach.
I am on Instagram more than anything. That's pretty much where you'll find me. Doom scrolling usually. Instagram, Ethan Harris. It's ETHXN.HXRRIS, because I'm cool. I've got me coaching. I've got my second coach Han, who is predominantly female. And that's pretty much it. If you like me, cool. If you probably know if you like me based on this. You've probably lost viewers about 5 minutes in, but that's it. Yeah.
Ethan's links will be down below, so we'll have a link to his Instagram as the top link in bio. If you want to work with me, Camille or Matty, our links will be below. Conti Sports, Charter 10, yada yada yada. I cringe at myself whenever we have a guest on. I have to plug it anyway, but I should plug it. Thank you all for listening. If you've got any questions for Ethan as follow-up, then drop us a message or drop him a message. And if you've got any questions for the next pod, then let us know. The next guest that we'll be having on is Josh Jenkins, and then hopefully after that, Ryan Turner. So that's something for everyone to know. But Ethan, mate, thank you for coming on. I'm going to end the recording here.